Okay, so we're at Cobram Cemetery. It's a middle-sized cemetery and it holds quite a lot of history. But before I really get into the cemetery's history, I kind of have to talk about Cobram. So, for a start, Cobram in the native tongue, or indigenous tongue, means lovely banks, and perhaps that's why it was chosen to be the first station along the Murray River. So it was quite a large property, and that was in and around the 1830s. Cobram Station, or more commonly known as Cobram Homestead, is east of the current township of Cobram. Now, as you can see in that photo there, that's what the homestead uh, looks like, which is pretty cool. Um, in uh, 1857, a little girl about the age of 7 named Mary Hughes and her mother came to Cobram Homestead to visit their uncle. Now, unfortunately, she died and was buried at the back of the property on a sandy rise. The property changed hands a few times and it fell into the ownership of the Dick family. And they took it upon themselves to give a piece of their land back to the Cobram community to use as the cemetery. It happened to be that same sandy rise that that little girl was buried on all those many years ago, which I think is kind of nice. Now, unfortunately, you can't find her grave because of a grass fire that happened about 30 or 40 years ago, which burnt her wooden, I suppose you say headstone, but it's not really a headstone, is it? And no one really knows where she was buried. So that's a little bit unfortunate. So I wanted to show you this mausoleum. This mausoleum, or crypt, depending on what you want to call it, I guess, was originally funded by the Italian community in 2002, and that was the first stage. The second stage was in 2005, the third stage then in 2007, and they're looking to do a fourth stage in, I suppose, the next couple of years. If you can see down the right hand side, there's a picture of what it'll look like roughly when it's completely finished. But right now, it's only the right hand circle and that whole length, which I think is pretty cool that it's just going to keep growing and growing like that. As you can see, there's like no shortage of empty spots. Now, it's not to say that these haven't been purchased, it's just that they haven't got anyone in them at the moment. And that's okay, it's not a big deal. So some of the reason people might choose to go with a crypt as opposed to the regular headstone is mainly cost and ease, I would think. But there's also other sides of it, it's protection. It's because I can't get in there to be able to do anything to it unless I've got a key. And it's protected from the weather, which is another good point. So they're likely to last a lot longer than a headstone. But they're also substantially cheaper than a headstone. So I just wanted to bring you back and point out this sign talking about the electricity being interrupted, which just sort of caught my amusement. It's on the front sign as well. And I'm like, where? What power? There'd be no power. Would there? And then I noticed the box. And I look up and I'm like, oh, okay. So obviously there is power and it goes to lights or something, which has nothing to do with what I'm currently talking about, but it just sort of caught my interest. So if we head along further down here, you can see, I'll look at that and I'll see if I can get a better shot of the stained glass. So if you look up the top there, where, yep, and I'll zoom in for you to give you a better look. They've taken one of the face plates off and have just covered it over with what appears to be black cardboard or something like that. So it's either for a funeral that's just happened or a funeral that's going to happen, and they'll just lift up the casket and slide it on in, which I think is pretty cool. I'd love to actually see that in person, but I think that might be a little bit weird. I just wanted to show you this stained glass on the outside because I thought it was pretty cool. So why don't we see what the Roman Catholics are up to? So I saw this and I'm like, oh, what a cool little seat. Now I think it is just a seat, and I think it's been put there by the people who put this headstone in, so mourners can, I suppose, have a quality cry in front of it. I suppose it beats sitting on the headstone. Just check out those little hands. How cute are they? God, someone's put some work in there. Now, you'll find that a lot of Catholic headstones, they put a bit more effort in. They definitely spend a bit more and are a little bit more showy, which, I mean, it isn't a bad thing. And these ones here aren't even the showy ones. They get a lot more showy than this. So you can get some that have the glass cabinet to put stuff in, like this one, which doesn't appear to have much in it. And look, not all Catholic ones are overly showy. Like if we take a look at these ones, they're quite light and basic compared to what you'll see a little bit further in. So this one's caught my attention. It doesn't appear to have anyone in it at the moment. Like it's all built ready to go. I haven't seen one completely blank like this. I was always under the opinion that they put the first body in and then built everything else around it. So it seems a bit weird that they haven't got like anything written on either side of the plaque. There must be reason for this, and I just don't know. I'm sure if I ever come across a stonemason, I will ask them. Just for my own amusement, if nobody else's. Check out that Mary. Now I'll zoom in for you. And as you can see, she's very well done. And she's actually made up of lots of tiny little dots. That's it. She's just made up of little dots. And unfortunately, I've ended up in the shot. Whoops. So this one's perhaps a little bit more impressive. It's definitely taller than a lot of the other ones. And it's a 3-1. So we're going to assume that it's probably for the whole family as opposed to just a husband and wife, or designed for obviously just more than just a husband and wife. Now, obviously, a husband and wife can have a single stone and they just put them on top of each other. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So just check out, they've printed the name and everything on the back. Now this does happen. I find it a little bit weird, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's just me, I suppose, me being weird for finding it weird. Now this is when we start to get a little bit more impressive, because this one has a roof. I don't quite know why it needs a roof, but you'll see the Catholic ones, when they get a bit showy, like this one, are almost an unfinished room in how they're made, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, I can't really show you a better view because I'm stuck in this like tiny little passage, so I'm doing the best that I can. And I just wanted to point out this weird little fence on this one. It's like they started to make columns and then just sort of changed their mind. Yeah, so like, I don't know if it was supposed to have columns that led into the roof or not. Just something a bit different. And this one's got chains, which I think is pretty cool. Like, it's got this real Egyptian-y sort of feel about this one, which I think's just, it's different. And there's nothing wrong with different. Oh, I wanted to show you this. It has been scratched in, and it's actually a photo of the guy. How cool is that? And I've ended up back in shot again. God damn it. So I just wanted to show you these Jesuses, because to me it kind of looks like a small boy reaching out from a hug from his mum. And just as I say that, it's starting to rain on me. So I deserve that. Jesus is not amused. Check out this one. Now, this gentleman, John, died in 1929, so it's unlikely that this is the original headstone. It's obviously been replaced sometime after that. What's interesting about this guy is how young he died. He died when he was 40 and left a wife and, well, the newspaper says 4 children, but the headstone only lists 3, which I thought was a little unusual. I don't know why. But, like, it's just quite a beautiful headstone. And it's a beautiful photo to go with it of him and his wife. So here at Cobram, they mark their unmarked graves, in the sense, or the ones that don't have proper headstones, with these cross stakes. And they do put the name and the year, if they can. And you can see them a bit further down there. But then anyway, you can mark the ones that don't have a mark, I think is a really nice thing to do for others. So you know that, oh wait, there is somebody there. So while I wander around through this cemetery and just look at random things, so you don't get bored, I thought I would, I suppose, tell you some of the more tragic and notable historical events that happened in Cobram over the, well, 100 years or more. I thought I might start with one called Driving Fatality at Cobram. The woman, Elizabeth Barter, didn't survive, unfortunately, but her child and husband, the driver, did, which is good. The inquest said that the deceased died from a fracture of the skull caused by being accidentally thrown from the vehicle. The vehicle is considered unsafe. What makes this tale of woe interesting is the words used in the article. Vehicle, brakes, speed. All of these words are normal. You would see them in any newspaper on any given day. What makes this interesting is that this article was from April 4th, 1907, more than 100 years ago. The term vehicle in this story refers to a buggy or cart attached to a horse. The speed in this case was coming from the horse that wasn't properly broken in, and the buggy was unsafe because it had a brake problem and it ended up getting caught in the spokes, and that's how they got thrown. The link to this full article is in the description. This odd structure is a memorial wall, and it houses cremated people. The ashes sit in a little box behind the plaque. If you look at the picture in the right hand side of the screen, you'll see what it used to look like before it was rendered and, in the attempt of jazzing it up. The memorial wall is a great opportunity for if you want to be cremated, but you don't want to be thrown to the wind. You can just come here and be a part of the cemetery. So if you like this pig, click like. And if you hate this pig, for reasons I don't understand, click subscribe.